Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with an invocation from Police Chaplain Fesmeyer.
You are welcome to join me in prayer. Almighty God, protector of our protectors, Heavenly Father, thank you for today, an opportunity to live for something greater than ourselves. Thank you for those who serve, who lead, protect, and bring life to this city. Grant wisdom, understanding, and discernment to all who will receive this divine gift. And may we act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly before you in all the words and actions of this day. For we pray this in your most holy name. Amen.
Councilman O'Brien, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman Hernandez.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Here. Vice Mayor Hodge Washington.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Also want to welcome all the people in the room, but also Sunny the dog, a four-legged member of Team Phoenix who is with us. And we'll get to hear from or see in item 35. Mario Barajas is here with us to provide Spanish interpretation. Would you introduce your team, Mario?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mario Barajas. I'll be teaming up today with Elsie Duarte, who will be serving as today's Spanish interpreters. I'll now take a moment to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience. Buenas tardes, yo soy Mario Barajas y voy a estar trabajando junto con Elsie Duarte como intérpretes a los de habla hispana. Quisiéramos informarles de que si acaso van a estar dando un comentario público, favor de hablar de una manera clara, entendible y trate de evitar distracciones de fondo si es que lo están haciendo virtualmente. De esa manera, haciéndolo así, podemos interpretarles de la mejor manera posible. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mario. Will the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G7501 through 7507, S52698, 52727 through 52770, and resolutions 22367 through 22369.
Thank you so much. Will the city attorney please explain the role of public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item should be made during the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before the council in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing the council. City Code states that speakers must express their comments respectfully and courteously. Use of profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. Such comments are disruptive and unrelated to the council's business. Any person who violates these rules may lose their opportunity to speak further and could be asked to leave. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a great group here for boards and commissions. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes. Motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commission nominations.
Second. Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Congratulations on your unanimous confirmation. If you'll please come forward for a swearing in. Thank you again for your service to our city. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you for serving our city. Congratulations. If you'll go behind, the council would like to thank you personally. A great group that will help us with so many things from land use planning to youth and education to so important in a desert, our water. The City of Phoenix provides an advisory role to the state of Arizona on liquor licenses, and we'll turn to that portion of our agenda next. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve items 2 through 12, except for 12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 12 is in Councilwoman Stark's district. I do not see any speakers on this item. I'll turn to the councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. So it appears that this applicant has not resolved all the pending city building permit and use permit requirements. And so we've also gotten a slew of letters of opposition. So I would like to recommend approval based on those two facts.
And I'm sorry, just to confirm, you said recommend approval, you said? Or
Did I say approval? Denial, I'm sorry. You can tell I'm still not back from home yet.
Do you want disapproval?
Pardon me?
Do you want to move to disapprove?
I can't, I'm sorry. You want to make a motion to disapprove? Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to make a motion to recommend disapproval based on the two facts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Hodge Washington,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning, and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Motion to approve items 13 through 74, except for the following. Item 25, 30, 35, 41, 43, 50, 72, 73, and 74. Noting that item 24 is as corrected per the memo of the Human Resources Director dated April 8, 2026. Item 31 is being continued to May 6, 2026. Item 74 has additional information. And can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comments?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, also excluding item 54. That's item 54.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Hodge Washington,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next turn to item 25, which is an authorization to enter into a contract with Father Matters Incorporated for youth crime prevention services. We do have one member of the public to comment. Mr. Harris, the floor is yours.
Go ahead and speak now.
Please go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Okay. First of all, I never thought I'd come in here and actually be against you guys giving funds to a foundation or an organization. But I am here to say that I urge this council to vote no on giving the funding to Fathers Matters. I don't think that they are capable of running this plan. And to be honest, if I wouldn't have lost Jacob on January 11, 2019, we wouldn't even be in here talking about this funding for this Fathers Matters. I believe this funding came from my hard work and dedication of losing my son to make sure that no more youth are lost to the city. I worked diligently with the assistant city manager and the former city manager on finding funds to fund a youth program. And to find out that this money is going to be going to a program that has no capabilities of taking care of these youth in the city is sad. I truly believe that being dedicated to saving these kids' lives, you have to be 100% committed, not 50% committed. My father used to always tell me, you can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So when you come in here and you say that they want to save these kids, the last time they had anything to do with youth was in 2008. So I'd like to ask them what changed since 2008 to 2026? $1.5 million. So I say, you guys need to find a better foundation and put this money in. Somebody that's 100% dedicated to these children, because it's not a 5-month program. When you make a commitment to these youth in the city, be a mentor, it's for life. There are no business hours on being a mentor. That is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week commitment. So if someone is not prepared to make that commitment, then I say you guys vote no. If you guys think a foundation or organization could be successful with 50% commitment, then vote yes. If you know that that is impossible, then vote no. Do not give them the funds.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Hernandez.
thank you. Mr. Harris, would you mind staying out there? I just have a couple questions for you. Thank you so much for being here. Would you be willing to share a little bit about your personal story with us, about your family and your son specifically? We have pretty similar stories, and I think, I believe that if you share that, it would add very important context to your testimony.
Jacob was shot in the back twice and murdered by Phoenix Police Department's Christopher Burtz. Jacob was involved as a armed robbery. And the sad situation that made me go to this work was the only child that had a father in their life at that time was Jacob. His 3 friends did not have any fathers in their lives. They didn't have any mentors in their lives. They didn't have any adult supervision that they needed. So I made a commitment to make sure that no more youth do this. And as well as I fought for 7 years to try to get those 3 kids out of prison. So if you don't have that type of dedication to these youth in this city, please sit down. Because I like to ask Fathers Matters, where the heck were you guys at these last 7 years when we've been in this fight to get this funding? And it's sad and it's sickening that these type of organizations come out of the woodworks when there's funding available, but don't want to do anything to fight for this funding.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. And thank you so much for just being vulnerable enough to share that with us. Where the City of Phoenix is right now is going through our community budget hearings, and I've had, my district, we've had 2, and in both of the hearings that I've been in, we've heard directly by youth themselves and by parents that they are asking for more support, more investments into not just mental health, but all kinds of services for our youth. You mentioned that you've worked a lot on making sure that this doesn't happen again. Besides, I've seen you in all the work, so I know, but I know you mentioned, I think in previous testimonies, you've mentioned the Jacob Harris Foundation, that you've started out of this work as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and in the programming that your foundation is looking to do, does that encompass mental health support for our youth?
Yes, it does. Okay. It does, and we also, besides doing the mentorship and trying to do working, one of the main objectives we're going to be pushing, and I have several entrepreneurs ready to come in and help and assist, as we're going to be promoting entrepreneurship to the youth. We're not going to be teaching them to be working bees. We're going to be teaching them to be the boss, to own the business, not simply work for a business, which is something that these minority children need to know.
Thank you. And in addition to the mental health support that you are looking to provide to our youth and these entrepreneurial skills, what other support or what other programming will your organization or your foundation support these most marginalized teens?
Well, some of them are even the actual, some of the programs that Lori's actually assistant manager is going to be trying to implement in the Parks and Recs as well. We would like to do a free basketball league for the kids, something that encompasses the whole summer. So it gives these kids something to do during the summer. So they'll have games on the weekends, practices during the week. We also have reached out to Grand Canyon University to have some of their students come in and be tutors to the youth for free, as well as we are working and trying to find actual child psychologists, and the foundation planning on trying to fund us for those kids. We want everything to be completely free for the kids. We don't want these families to have to want or try to come up with any money, or kids not getting any services because the funds aren't there. And this is something that we are not committing to for just 3 years. This is something we're committed to for the rest of our lives.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mayor, I don't know if anybody is here from Fathers Matter. I would have a couple questions for them.
To our staff, is anyone here from the, and folks are nodding no, we do not have anyone here from the applicant.
Perfect example on why they're not good for these kids.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I have a few questions, maybe staff would be able to answer them, if that's okay. Not to the foundation specifically, but.
And actually, I have a question for Mr. Harris. Do you mind if I do that
Yeah,
while
go ahead.
he mostly sat down, but not fully? Will you tell us about your involvement in this program, how many meetings you had, and with whom?
I think your assistant manager, city manager, Lori, can attest to that. What, about 7 years worth of meetings, I would say, or at least the last 4. We've been working with Lori on trying to get these funds. So it's not something that's been temporarily.
Okay.
Your former city manager, actually, Jeff Burton, challenged me. Yeah, he asked me, he said, what are you prepared to do? So what I went out and did was reach in my pocket, and I started a nonprofit foundation. Not only do I reach in my pocket to start this foundation, I reach in my own pocket every 3 years, so this will be the 3rd year, to put on a free basketball tournament for the community. Councilwoman Washington, Councilwoman Hernandez actually helped sponsor some of that last year as well, and put some of that cost. But mostly that comes out of my pocket. So I mean, it's not about money to me anymore. It's about my son's legacy. This isn't my foundation. It's Jacob's. And this is what Jacob done, and this is what Jacob did. He would give you the shirt off his back, and this is what I do. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. And so the city needs to competitively procure nonprofit services, but how long ago would you say the city committed to doing a procurement for youth violence intervention to you?
Last year?
Last year? Mm-hmm. Like was there a milestone or about when?
Lori would give you, can better attest to the exact date. I believe it was about a year ago, though, that it came, the conversations were ongoing. We've been asking, even in here in council, I've asked council to even start putting in funds. But after watching what happened with Fathers Matters and with these funds being, I've never seen anyone not do an interview stage. You simply put in someone's information, it kicks back a score. And based off of that score is who you guys decide to fund and not fund. It's like hiring somebody off of their resume and never giving them a job interview. So that's why I've come in here now and came in here previously and formally asked the city council to directly fund the Jacob Michael Harris Foundation with funds from the city. It's time that I'm tired of seeing funds being wasted. You guys put money into the OAK program for youth, and it's failing. It's failing miserably. I don't want to see this fail because I fought for this. So I don't want to, I have some investment into this and I don't want to see it fail. And I truly believe that Fathers Matters does not have the capabilities or the investment. I think it's just a money grab, honestly.
In September, the Vice Mayor, Councilman Robinson, and I put forward a series of policies. I think you were not a huge fan of all of them. Would you say this conversation was very separate and unrelated from that September memo from the Vice Mayor, the Councilman, and myself?
Which one was that? I apologize, Mayor. Could you elaborate a little bit?
How would you want to describe it?
Thank you, Mayor. So it was as part of our three-person memo. One of the things that we asked is that the city staff look into potential programs that provide intervention for youth who are likely to be justice involved or have interactions with our police department.
I don't think that they're kind of the same. What I do say that I don't agree with, unfortunately, is a lot of a police involvement when it comes to the youth programs. And that's just simply because sometimes you don't want these kids to feel like they're in a hostile environment. And it's nothing, no knock against, I don't hate Phoenix PD, but simply, unfortunately, the bad apples do make the good ones look bad. So, I mean, when you have a child that comes in and you want to speak freely, you don't want them to feel like I can't say anything about the police because the police are standing here in front of me. So I think that those two things do need to be separated. I do think when it does come to the police department, since you did bring up Phoenix PD, I think that it was kind of amazing and eye-opening when one of the partners that I deal with in the community, Ben from Port Air, tells me that what the city of Phoenix is giving for this youth crime prevention of $1.5 million over 3 years is only 1 day of shutting down the Phoenix Police Department. There's $1.5 million would only be the pay for 1 day. That is sad. That you're gonna take 1 day away from Phoenix PD to try to save the lives of these kids over 3 years.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering those questions. And I was not aware of the years you were working on this item. So everyone will let Mr. Harris sit down? Okay, thank you for Councilwoman Pastor.
Well, sorry, just one follow-up question.
Councilwoman.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think, you know, between the years of work, Mr. Harris, that you've done on this topic and a lot of other folks, I mean, I think that also mirrors a lot of the work that Mayor and some of our council members, right, seem to be supportive of. Would you say that that's an accurate statement?
I can say that some of the things.
Let's say this youth program. It's
nice to see a movement in a positive direction. Do I think it's a pebble in an ocean? Yes. Okay. But I mean, it's like moving a boulder up a slippery slope. I mean, a slippery slope. I mean, I've seen positive things. Don't let me get me wrong. Like I've seen the city management office, especially a lot of work under Lori. See a lot of changes since they won't be turning dogs loose anymore after they shoot someone like they did myself and they did Alex Hernandez, or they did Jacob and Alex Hernandez. I apologize. So that's one positive move. I met with the mayor's chief of staff. They did make a move to make it to where special assignments now have to wear body cams. So I mean, there's been some. I don't want to not give credit where credit's due on some things, but we're still having youth and unarmed civilians murdered in the streets as well. So,
thank you.
Councilwoman Pastor.
So I'm gonna recall in history for me, and I just want to make sure my facts are correct. My understanding is that about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years, there was a conversation. It came out of a group of citizens that worked with the assistant city manager, also the city manager, Jeff Barton, was originally part of the conversation and with a collective community group to discuss some of the issues in the community and what could be possible solutions. And the RFP that was released was part of those conversations for a solution. To put money back into the community, to put money towards the youth, to develop programming in particular districts or with the school district. And that was all part of the conversations that, that the community was meeting with staff and management.
Some of our meetings were, but none of our meetings consisted of putting funds into a school program, no.
No, correct. But what I'm talking about, ultimately what happened is the RFP was created or came about because of your work and the conversations that you were having with management and staff.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I just want to make sure I had the correct information and facts because I had been following it behind the scenes and was aware of the RFP and what it was asking for, because it also touches District 4. So I'm just trying to go back in my memory. The other piece is that one of the conversations was really having activities for the youth after school and in the evening so that they can engage in positive activities within their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to.
Yes, that's where actually Assistant City Manager came in and said that wanting to extend the community hours at the community center on South Mountain was some of the direct input in that meeting, in those meetings as well. One of the suggestions was actually making the community centers and all programs at the community center completely free, as well as implementing free meals for the youth at the community centers during the summer as well. So there's a lot of other intricals in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Other questions?
I think we're done. Councilwoman Hernandez had questions first.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a few questions for staff on the process side, since no reps from Fathers Matters here. But where does the funding go if it's not awarded to this grantee?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Hernandez, the funding for this program comes from the Neighborhood Block Watch Fund, and so it would remain in that fund to be used for purposes specified for the fund, which include Block Watch grants or other programs intended to improve public safety.
Okay, thank you so much. And is anybody able to kind of explain what the selection process was like with this grant? Because I'm really curious if in the process, this organization provided success rates with youth, details about the types of youth program they're looking to provide, and like their reasoning why they felt they're the best fit for this grant.
Mayor, Councilwoman Hernandez, members of council. Yes, so the selection process through the RFP, there were 20 applicants, and they were each scored on the following categories: organizational capacity, program design, community engagement, program focus, implementation plan, their administrative or grant readiness, their geographic provision of services, their evaluation methods, as well as their ability to manage a budget, their fiscal responsibility. So each of the 20 applicants, or each of the 20 submissions were scored by the panel of 3 that consisted of 3 city staff members. Through that, there was a score of 1,000 total that was given to each of those applicants. For Fathers Matters and their program, Level Up, youth crime prevention program. They were the highest score that was decided to move forward for a contract at 883 points. To your next question of their background of youth programming, so they did provide information within their RFP on their experience. They've been in the community since 1997, providing services to youth, families, and the community. And their youth-specific activities really started back in 2008, but have continued to this day, including with a teen outreach program in partnership with the Phoenix Union High School District, and they have continued ongoing engagement at both Trevor Brown and Maryvale High Schools. They have done youth leadership and empowerment events, a conference in the past. They have also done prevention workshops for approximately 16 years across several Phoenix Union High schools. And they have ongoing participation with other community agencies as well as public agencies as well, targeted in youth programming from prevention, health, behavioral health, coaching, case management.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. I was just curious because even glancing at their website, under their programs, out of everything they have listed, there's one thing mentioning teens, and this is really Crossroads for teen parents, so it seems like it's more geared toward teen parents. So, I mean, even without seeing the application and just looking at their website, I have a lot of questions around, are they the best fit for this? And that's, like I said, just glancing at their website. Okay, and in the process, how are they, is there an interview piece that happens in the grant process?
There is not an interview piece specifically in the grant process or in the RFP process, not as in this specific one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. That's all my questions. And I mean, it's based on what I'm hearing from Mr. Harris and just looking at the website and the experience I've had sitting on grant committees, awarding funds to different organizations. I looking just at their website alone, I have a lot of concerns that this is the best fit for this grant to really lead work around our youth. So I do not believe that they're the best fit, and I'm not going to be able to support this item today for them to be selected as the grantee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I just want to start off, maybe it might be helpful, we had some questions about, maybe it might be helpful to explain what it is the RFP is, what are the services, and what is the goals that we would like to see from the ultimate awardee.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. The RFP was developed to seek proposals for the reduction and prevention of juvenile crime, targeting specific neighborhoods in Phoenix, as well as making sure that this was an evidence-based program. So aligning with the evidence-based strategies, as well as ensuring that there was outreach, early intervention strategies, and community collaboration, along with the cultural relevance to be able to work with both youth and their families in the community. Partnerships was another aspect that was important in this.
Can you walk us through the specific performance metrics that will be used to evaluate the proposed, like identifying which metrics would be, can you identify how these metrics will be quantified and tracked over time to ensure that the goals of this program are being met?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, yes, I can. Just give me one moment. I have a summary, but I can pull up the specific ones for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The first goal is focused on reducing youth substance use aggression or any type of delinquent behavior. And so this is, the purpose is really to ensure that youth are equipped with critical life skills to foster resilient self-control and responsible decision-making. So the first objective in this goal is that 75% of youth participants will demonstrate improved decision-making, problem-solving, and refusal skills by post-survey. So there will be a pre and post-survey. This is the tools that they are using in this are an evidence-based strategy, a life skills, Botman life skills program. So the second objective is that 70% of youth will show a reduction in aggressive, disruptive, or defiant behaviors. Objective 3 is 80% will improve school attendance, punctuality, and academic engagement. And then objective 4 in this goal is 100% of the youth identified as high risk will receive case management and mentoring within the 30 days. That is of the first goal. The second, there are three goals. Oh, yes.
If I may, before you go ahead with the other goals, I guess it might be helpful to, just because I think I have some questions because this is the first time that we're doing this, kind of understanding. So those goals sound great aspirational, but what are we using to determine the baseline for our students, and how does one show a 70%, for example, reduction in aggression? Is that they only fight 3 times a week? I mean, I don't know I'm curious of how we quantify that.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. So there are pre and post surveys done along with this evidence-based strategy, the Botman life skills. And so we'll assess each of the youth at the beginning of the process, and then after the 5-month intervention occurs, they will be assessed again.
And when you say we, are you talking about the grant, the awardee, or the Department of Human Services?
Thank you. Fathers Matters will do that. So they will need to present these results to us, and along with the other 2 goals and the measures and metrics that are associated with each of those, what we have is that there will be an evaluation component 6 months into the contract. So they will need to report on their progress of meeting their objectives and meeting their goals. From there, the Human Services Department will determine if they are meeting their goals and objectives as stated in their proposals, as they are contracted to do. If not, there will be essentially a performance improvement plan put in place. This will allow us to ensure that they are, again, meeting what they are stated to do. We do have in the contract that we are able to terminate whether it's based on performance or funding, whatnot. That is clearly stated within the contract. So if this organization does not meet the goals and objectives that they have, then after trying to cure the issue, then we would proceed with termination.
Okay. So thank you for that clarification. If you want to go back to the goals of the program and the metrics of success, that'd be helpful.
Thank you. So the second goal is to strengthen family relationships and parental engagement. So this purpose is to empower parents and caregivers with the skills, confidence, and resources to foster positive relationships, maintain boundaries, and really support the success of the youth, both in the community and in their home. The, the objectives and performance measures in this goal are measured through an evidence-based tool called P, and this is a positive parenting strategy that does go through the teenage years. Again, pre and post surveys being done and working with the family overall on this. In addition, the indicators will include increasing awareness of the services as measured through outreach and participant surveys, establishing formal partnerships and referral pathways for the families to connect with community organizations, schools, or behavioral health agencies. They are going to ensure that there's 4 annual community resource fairs to engage with more than 20 partner organizations and ensure that at least 300 families per year are attending those. And they will conduct quarterly partner collaboration meetings to share updates, evaluate progress, and strengthen resource coordination. So between the number of partnerships, the attendance and partnership counts, the survey data, and the notes and feedback from the quarterly collaboration sessions. So from there, we also have the 80% of parents participating in the positive parenting program will report increased confidence in managing their teen behavior. 75% of parents will show measurable improvement in communication and relationship quality with their teen. And then 90% of families engaged will be engaged with case management, will complete an individual family development plan and address barriers to stability. And then 85% of families attending at least one family fun night or engagement activity. The goal 3, when I had first shared the other objectives of the partnerships, that was in fact attached to goal 3, which is to strengthen community collaboration and increase access to resources. So again, that's the community resource fairs, the establishment of partnerships, the partner collaboration meetings, and increasing community service awareness.
Thank you for that. We've talked, so I understand the metrics that were, my understanding of the comparison is more so we're going to rely on the reporting from the recommended awardee. My next question would be, what level of oversight or quality control would the department be doing to ensure that our expectations are, there is some consistency between what we expect and what is actually being reported on?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Mayor, members of council. Regards to that, Human Services has extensive history with working with community-based partners and in managing contracts for program delivery. And so a minimum of a monthly meeting would likely take place. That would be structured, especially during the initial implementation, to make sure that for instance, if staff needed to be hired, what is the status on that? If the initial engagement sites, have those been secured? When will the first cohort work? So we will, based on what they have submitted, we will have those consistent meetings, and ongoing reporting is required as well. So it's not just the conversation that we're having with them, but it's also looking at what they're required to submit to us for us to ensure that they are meeting those requirements. So although we will, a number of the or much of the evaluation to see if they're successful is based on that 6 months to see if there is progress being made with youth and their families. That implementation and fidelity of program will be monitored consistently by Human Services Department staff.
Okay. And then my last question is more so, if I remember your testimony correctly, there were 20 applications and there was a review, the review was done by 3 members. There was a 3-member review panel. Were there objective scoring rubrics, and how did we ensure consistency amongst staff, amongst reviewers, to ensure that a 10 in reviewers 1 box was the same as a 10 in reviewers 2's box?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of council. For the evaluation, each of the categories have a set number that they could achieve, and it has description of what we were looking for to for the applicants to be able to respond to. Based on that and each member of the panel's assessment, they evaluated such as their organizational capacity. Based on each of the respondents, was it a thorough enough response? Are they able to meet the specific items that are listed in the RFP in that? And then they each score. There is also a deliberation and discussion after all of the proposals are viewed, and the procurement officer does record how each of the applicants are being scored.
Thank you. Those are my questions. Those are my questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. I appreciate the RFP process. Trust me, I've gone through them many, many times. It is a lot of work. However, I am a little concerned. I think in this case, I would agree that we probably should have had an interview process because we're talking about working with youth. And I think it would have been generally wise to have everyone come in and talk a little bit about their organizations. And you could really get a sense of how they feel and how they want to work with youth. So I'm a little concerned that we didn't do that. And again, look, I've been through a lot of RFP processes, and not every one of them requires an interview. But in this case, I think they should have. And I'm also a little concerned that they're not here today. I know it's not the biggest contract, but again, if they're really committed to the program, it would have been nice if they would have shown up to be here instead of us having to ask staff questions. So I'm having a little concern. Again, I appreciate the hard work when it comes to RFPs, but I am concerned with maybe we should have done some interviewing. So I'm a little concerned right now with this. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll go to Councilman Pastor, and then I have questions.
Thank you. I guess one of the items regarding this is that I know in the RFP it talked about working with the school district, but what I had heard right now is that they're already working with the school district. And I would like to see another program within the school district. Not necessarily an expansion, but another program does impact, but maybe impact in a different way. The other piece is the data and what we're measuring. Because in me working in early outreach programs, I understand the case management that needs to happen with not only students, but with families. And so the benchmarks that are associated right now, I don't think would hit what we're trying to achieve within the community. And when you were speaking about those pieces, in my head and in my mind, I look at the money and then I start to ask how many students can be impacted by that. And so I'm trying to figure out, are we gonna measure how many students are active in this program? What's the impact on the family? And I'm just not there yet with where we're at in this conversation. Can you, I see you're gonna respond, so.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, to address some of what you have said, it is a new program that they are putting forward. So they do have that established relationship with the Phoenix Union High School District, and that was one of their references. So it is new. It's not an expansion of an existing program. For the piece on how many children or how many teens, youth will be impacted. So the program has suggested that there will be cohorts of up to 25 youth for the 5-month period. For the total of 3 years, and the number of cohorts that they said that they have committed to do, there would be 425 youth that would be impacted or receive these services along with their families. The measurements regarding both the skills with the youth along with their families, those are measured by those two different evidence-based tools, along with the counting of how many mentoring sessions and family sessions that they will have. So it is supposed to be 2 sessions per week for the life skills training, a session at least once per week for mentoring, another session at least once per week for specifically the family or skill building together, and then additional events for the entire cohort.
Okay. What I heard right now is that this is a new program. And just like Councilwoman Hernandez, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at the time I was looked up the website, and it really is centered around young teens and fathers. It's a father's program. It's regarding how do you really as how do you become how are you a good father? How do you mentor your student or your child? And it's not really around, for me, around teens and the impact that can be made with teens. Parenting is very, very different at a high school level. And parenting is very, very different when you enter a program like this that is very limited in the sense of the scope of how you make impact with your family. And this type of program is really kind of an everyday touch base, working with the students, family-wise. It's great that there's 2 sessions, but are they mandatory sessions or do we highly encourage? The way the program is structured and needs, at least in my opinion, only because of my experience, needs to be very built in a structured manner. And really being committed to going through this type of program and not being able to go measure, okay, they took 1, then that's 1 measurement. They didn't take the full impact of the program. So those are just my comments. I don't need any response, but for me, it's about impact and really changing behavior of positivity, and I'm not saying none of these families have positivity, but really learning how to work with one another and communicate with one another. And it might not be their parent, it might be a mentor. And so I just struggle with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Edwards, have you been here for the entire genesis of this program, or did it start before you?
Mayor, I have been here the entire time.
Who set the goals of the RFP? What was the process? What other cities did we look at?
Mayor, how this began as part of the public improvement or public safety improvement plan. And what the Human Services Department did was first take a look at the police crime improvement report and to see what is happening with juveniles in our city and those statistics. We also looked at information on the American Community Surveys Act. From there, staff did do an analysis to see kind of base programs that are trying to prevent youth crime across the country, and also do an analysis of what type of youth programming is happening within the city, along with what is happening in the community. And that is where the basic pillars and framework of what the RFP would become, how that was created.
And I'd mentioned, what cities did you admire? What other cities did you look at? Obviously, so many cities have these programs.
Sure. Mayor, I apologize. I do not have the list of those cities that the staff did look at in front of me now. I apologize.
And was human service staff that researched other cities?
Yes, it was.
And was the police department involved?
We worked with the city manager's office to share the framework along with to receive feedback on the development of both that framework along with the RFP.
Okay, so the police department was not involved in this?
I could not speak to, Mayor, at what point the police department was included because it was part of the public improvement or the public safety improvement plan, and we were working with the city manager's office. There were additional individuals pulled into those meetings to provide feedback.
Okay, so you were in meetings with police officers about this specific program?
I believe...
or just general?
I believe that there were representatives from the police department, but I would consult with Lori if she recalls.
Mayor, I can speak to that. Mayor, members of the council. The way that this discussion and this program and ultimately the RFP came to be was actually born out of the work that was done in response to the Department of Justice report. It was part of a larger effort to address the report and ultimately, culminated in a presentation to the council on what the staff was recommending that we do to respond to the DOJ report at the time, but also to build upon many years of work that the council and the community had been working on to make improvements within the police department and public safety in general. And so there had been many discussions leading up to that point. The police department, in response to the Department of Justice investigation and report, did build a team called the Organizational Integrity Bureau, which is still in place today. And that team, in response to the components of the report having to do with youth, did much research related to best practices and how to build police-related policies with youth. But the other component that we wanted to look at were preventative measures with youth, and how do we get ahead of some of the incidents that happen with juveniles in our community. And so as we started to do that, police did do some preliminary research on it and looked at best practices, but then ultimately we realized this is not the right department to be conducting this research, and we really need to ask Human Services to get involved. And that's when Jacqueline and her team got involved, and her assistant director, Nicole, was very instrumental in developing the scope of the RFP and figuring out what it was that we were trying to accomplish based on the council's direction and based on the overall public safety improvement plan. And so that's how the RFP itself came to be. There were many, many factors that played into the inputs into even making that recommendation in the first place, some of which came from this council body. We have Councilwoman Pastor and Councilwoman O'Brien, who both have education backgrounds. They've mentioned multiple times, how valuable it is to engage with youth positively. We have many other members of the council, Mayor, yourself included, who are very passionate about serving youth in our community. And so we wanted to make sure that we incorporated that positive, proactive approach into the public safety improvement plan so that it wasn't just reactionary. And former city manager Barton and I had many conversations about how we did that. And there were many groups, the council, community members, members of our staff who provided input on what that plan should look like. And while I do want to acknowledge Mr. Harris and the Justice Coalition that we've been working with, and that was actually in place many years before I was in this role, that group did provide input, but it was not the sole input that led to the recommendation to the council. It was one component of stakeholder input, and there were many other factors that played into staff's recommendation to conduct exploration into youth prevention programming, and then ultimately, leading to the RFP when we were able to identify funding through the Blockwatch funds. So I hope that provides some context.
It does. And would you date the council involvement to this to the September 24th, 2024 meeting with the memo from the Vice Mayor, Councilman Robinson, and myself?
Mayor, members of the council, that is the first time that I know that there was a formal recommendation approved related to youth prevention programming. However, there have been multiple conversations, that I can recall over the years where council has emphasized the importance of serving youth in our community. So I wouldn't say that was the only time it's ever been mentioned, but that was certainly the first formal approval of a recommendation related to this particular program.
Because I think we're hearing feedback from a very diverse coalition that this isn't what we were expecting. If this were to be unsuccessful, could we have meetings with each council person who is interested to talk about what we might see as goals and what metrics and who are some stakeholders we would want to be part?
Certainly, Mayor, members of the council, we would be happy to do that. I will just mention that this program and this proposal for the RFP was, not the program itself, but the proposal for the RFP and the best practices and the evidence-based practices were presented to the Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee last year, and the intent with that was to garner that feedback. We also have included those updates in our quarterly updates to the full council. And so we thought that we were providing, updates on what staff was working on, and unfortunately did not gather the level of feedback that Mayor and Council would have liked. And so we're hearing that loud and clear and happy to make any adjustments you would like us to make and revise the procurement if you would like us to. But we were making a good faith effort to incorporate what we believe the council direction was and to bring forward a product that was addressing that direction. And if it is not the direction that you would like us to go in, we are more than happy to change direction and to update the process.
Thank you. Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for your questions and just all the work that you and the council has done prior to me joining this around this topic. I know we're all very passionate about the services that we're pouring into our youth and finding ways to find preventative measures. Because of a lot of things, I would move to deny Fathers Matters as the grantee for this award or for this grant.
We have a motion and a second. Would anyone like to speak before roll call?
I would.
Councilman Pastor.
I just want to appreciate the acknowledgement of the work and history that we have been doing for the last 4 years, 5 years, and the conversations that were had. But like anything, everything evolves, and we evolved, and we know more, and you know more. And I think it now needs to be re-looked at on how we want to do some of this prevention. And just want to say I appreciate all the hard work, because there are many people in this at the table, not only community, but internal community, and had a voice. A lot of this work was started around many incidences that happen within our community, but also around how would we do this around the DOJ items and pieces. And then we clarified, it got clarified in a 3-person memo. And so I think we have to take a step back and relook at it and put it back out at a different time.
Vice Mayor, and then we'll go to Councilman O'Brien and then Councilman Guardado.
Thank you. I'll start off by saying I want to thank staff for their efforts to get us this far. I recognize with any new program, sometimes there could be a level of probably could have been clearer. I think what has been articulated here from my colleagues and myself is that we probably wanted to see a little bit more, maybe we needed a little bit more involvement. So I'm actually a little torn about denying the current awardee without having further conversations about what all of the applications look like, what would, I guess so my question is more so, is there a process for us to amend the RFP to incorporate all of the feedback that you have heard or and any additional, and then allow for the applicants that have submitted to maybe submit a new application? So everyone is kind of starting over from the same graces versus, because I'm not sure what happens from an awardee who has been denied. I don't want someone to be denied, which may have a negative repercussion on them because they didn't meet the unstated goal from us here as a council. So hopefully my question made some level of sense, but.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, it does make sense. I think I'd ask the city attorney. We may actually want to frame the motion just slightly differently. It will accomplish, I think, what you're seeking, but to what you're saying about the process. So Julie?
So Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, I think the discussion is, are you, you're declining the contract rather than, so you're disapproving the contract, not the particular, not Father Matters specifically.
Well, that was
And
the motion
you do have
that was
options. You could
presented, right?
also continue it if you wanted to review the scope in more detail. So you do have some options. If you decline to approve it at this point, you can direct staff to go back to do further work and to basically cancel the RFP and resubmit it. Or you can cancel it outright and the funds go back to, it sounds like, to the Block Watch program.
I think my recommendation from here in the conversation would be to cancel the RFP, reject the RFP, cancel it, direct staff to come back, working with each of you to reissue an RFP in the future after conversation with the council.
And you're saying that the funding, if I heard you correctly, Charlie Creed, is that the money goes back into the CDBG.
Mayor,
Oh,
Vice
Block
Mayor,
Watch.
yes, it's the Neighborhood Block Watch Grant Program.
Okay. And just so we can maybe helpful for understanding purposes, if we were to reconvene or to move down that path, how long does the procurement process normally take? I guess my concern is when would we be able to move forward our programming once we come up with what we want to see all collectively in the RFP process? Because what I gathered was with this time frame, this would allow us to start maybe when school reconvenes in September or August of 2020, of this year, 2026.
Mayor, members of the council, Vice Mayor, the process that we just went through started in October and recently concluded. It went a little bit longer because there were some administrative issues at the end that needed to be worked out, but the time frame was about 6 months. It could be slightly faster than that, but if it was reissued, it would not be likely that it would be able to start for the new school year.
So, okay. I just wanted to understand that. Thank you so much. But so I just want to make sure, could you restate the two options just so we clearly understand the difference between denying the current contract and continuing it and allowing modifications to the RFP process?
Mayor, members of council, Vice Mayor, so the request is to authorize to enter into a contract. So you would either, approve or you would not approve that contract and direct staff to go back and review the RFP process and reissue.
I think the issue is if you continue it, it has to come back at a future date, exactly like it is now. That's not what I'm hearing from you that you want. But I think you're seeking, let's not do this RFP as stands, let's just cancel it, start over by having a robust engagement process with the mayor and the council to develop a new RFP. I think that's what I would say would be the sum of a motion to accomplish what I heard you say.
Thank you. That is accurate to what I'm hearing. And I wanted to ensure that the current proposed awardee isn't negatively impacted in future procurement opportunities because we are making a decision that says it's a decline. That's what I would, so from my process, I was wondering if it was easier and it made more sense for us to just continue the RFP with staff direction to modify it. But what I'm hearing is we can't, is what I'm hearing. You prefer for us to to reject the contract, right?
Mayor, Vice
With
Mayor.
direction.
That is correct. So if you continue the item, it would have to come back as is. In order to make changes to the RFP, we have to cancel the RFP and reissue at this stage. All of the applicants or those that proposed would still be eligible to propose to a new RFP, so this doesn't affect.
Okay. So just out of clarification, Councilwoman Hernandez, your motion, if I remember, was to reject the contract.
Correct. So I think what the motion needs to be is that I would move to cancel the RFP with direction to staff to reopen the RFP or work on the RFP process with a more thorough engagement with mayor and council.
I think that works, and I would just commit to you, I think what we would do in this case, because it's had such robust conversation from you all, is we would actually bring it back and have you authorize us issuing the RFP again, so that you would see what it was and what the evaluation criteria were before it even went out to the public.
And
that would give you the most insight into.
Councilwoman O'Brien made a suggestion that may work for all us on Cinco de Mayo. We have a policy meeting on public safety, and so we could discuss the goals there if we think having all of us together would be helpful.
Right. So I just want to follow the bouncing ball, where the motion becomes to cancel the RFP with direction to discuss this item at the policy meeting on May 5th, and then I believe what we'd like to see, if at all possible, so I'm going to look at the facial expressions, to have that it be done so that the contract could start for the second semester of the school year, which would be January of 2027. See, I caught you guys. You thought I was going to say the beginning of the school year, but you didn't let me finish. Does that seem plausible?
Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, members of the council, that seems doable. Thank you.
Okay, and I would ask my council women at the other end if they would accept a friendly amendment to the motion with those additional items.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And just to clarify, I would suggest at May 5th, we discuss what we want out of the RFP, we not issue it.
Yes.
Because writing an RFP in a council meeting
Oh, yeah.
never goes well.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
And Mayor, before, may I just add, and yeah, I just want to reiterate and be clear that this is no reflection of the RFP process itself. It sounds like we're really close to what we feel is going to work to achieve all of our goals. And really thank you so much for all the work. Sometimes we just got to take a little step back and do a little bit more work to make sure that our youth, I think this is so important. I know we are also passionate about making sure we serve our youth in the best way possible and do right by them. So please, it's no reflection on the work that staff has done on this. We're close. We're almost there, but thank you so much for all the hard work.
Great. And then Councilman O'Brien, did you still want the floor? No. All right. Councilman Guardado, very patient.
Mayor, I'm okay now. Thank you.
All right. Are we ready? Does anyone wish to speak before roll call? Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Just one comment. I do want you to understand we really do appreciate everything you did. So with that, yes.
Waring. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
All right. Now we go to the fun item, item 35. Councilman or Vice Mayor Hodge Washington, do you want to introduce what we're doing in 35?
Yes.
Or would you rather I?
You can, if you want.
Okay, I will do it. So I would ask a celebrity to come forward. Sunny has proudly served the City of Phoenix Department and the region for 7 years as an accelerant detection dog with the Phoenix Fire Investigations Task Force, responding to more than 40 fire scenes each year. He has an exceptional nose and has played a key role in solving complex fire investigations. And he's helped cities beyond Phoenix, including the county, Goodyear, Mesa, and Gilbert. He works 12 hours a day alongside Captain Robbie Simpson. In fact, this is how he began serving Phoenix almost immediately after landing at Sky Harbor around 11:30 p.m. in 2019. He was dispatched to a fire scene an hour later. So he has, in my case, I would say earned retirement, and apparently his favorite pastime is collecting sticks. So we look forward to sending him on a tour of North America and our best sticks. And we'll recognize.
You forgot the most important part,
I did.
Mayor. Sonny's a good boy.
So handsome.
Thank you for having us today. As you said, Sonny joined the Phoenix Fire Department 7 years ago. He's been an integral part of the Fire Investigations Task Force. We're on call 24/7 when we're not at work. As you can see, he's a happy dog. He brings a lot of joy to the city of Phoenix. He sniffs accelerants, so gas, diesel, lighter fluid, any organic hydrocarbon. I use him on tragic fire scenes as a support dog to the people who need. But if there's one thing I'd like you to know, Sonny can take a complicated fire scene that might take a group of investigators a day or two to find the best location to find a place to pull evidence. Sonny can do that in minutes. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, less than 30 minutes on a big complicated scene. So he's a very effective tool for us. I want to thank you for having us down today.
We're so grateful that you brought him, and thank you for your patience with our last agenda item.
That was a great item.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to say thank you again to Sonny for all of his years of service here in the city of Phoenix. Thank you for all the scenes that he has processed. Thank you for all the families he has brought comfort to. And thank you for the hours that he has spent with us. And we hope he enjoys retirement. And I know you'll be following him soon. So congratulations to you both.
Yes.
Councilman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor, and I also want to thank both the captain and Sonny for your service to our city. What an amazing careers for both of you. Sonny is 9 years old, and so well-deserved retirement coming up. Thank you, appreciate it. Oh, wow, so he has done very well, so appreciate that. And can I make the motion to approve?
Yes.
I move to approve item 35.
Second.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Sonny, because Sonny probably doesn't know how much love he has given to many at very dark moments, and also has saved many lives. So thank you, Sonny. Looking for sticks.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Well, thank you to Sonny and to Captain Simpson. We appreciate all members of Team Phoenix, two-legged or four, or any other combinations. All right. 41 is fixed wing pilot training. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Councilwoman O'Brien. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
No.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-1.
Item 43 is the authorization to accept reallocated federal fiscal year 2022 Homeland Security grant funds. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 43.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just have a couple questions on these grants for our police department. Probably Chief Lee, Assistant Chief Lee will join us. Thank you, Chief Lee. you know, we're voting on receiving funding from 2 grant programs here, both of which are used for planning, equipment, and training so that we can prevent, protect, respond to, and recover from terrorism, terrorism-related risks, and catastrophic events. So I understand all that. Just curious about some of the actual details in there. So, for example, how do we define terrorism-related risk, and what criteria do we use?
Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Hernandez. So the term terrorism is a very broad spectrum that's actually defined by the Department of Homeland Security at the federal level. It's a term that we use here in the state, but it also really refers to the entirety of any type or essential nexus to any type of activity or actions that are caused by either man-made or natural disasters that could impact or have a centralized nexus that could affect the state of Arizona or the city of Phoenix.
Okay, thank you so much. And in trying to prevent that, does that mean that we are investigating, just to confirm, we're investigating possible threats?
The threat component is one of the 3 components that we actually have to do an assessment on an annual basis in order to be able to be qualified to submit for one of the grants, yes.
Okay, thank you. And in the past, has Phoenix PD responded to any specific groups or organizations because they presented a terrorism risk for Phoenix residents?
So, Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Hernandez, any type of threat that is received or forwarded to the Phoenix Police Department, whether it's based on religion, ideological theories or stances, or certain groups, whether it's based on ethnicity, all of those are reviewed to see where they best fit for investigation. So the City of Phoenix Police Department does have a biased crime squad. So we always look to see what's the centralized nexus, again, towards the commission of that crime, who was it targeted at and why. So the why is what we try to get to figure out, exactly who it is that we're dealing with there. So yes, each one of those threats that come in, they're vetted, they're reviewed, and then they're assigned accordingly.
Okay, thank you so much. And as part of this work, do we investigate and monitor hate groups?
Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Hernandez, as I mentioned, as far as groups that are considered hate crimes, again, we look at the criminality of the act, not the group. And that's how we define whether or not it fits that criteria. We do that at the local level. That's also reviewed at the state and federal level, again, depending on jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you so much. I just asked that question because in 2023, Southern Poverty Law Center released a report, and that group tracks hate groups across the United States. In their report, they identified 38 active hate groups in the state of Arizona. And I also ask because, our American history illustrates an established practice of labeling Black and brown-led groups like the Black Panthers, the Brown Berets, Black Lives Matter, and even current immigrant rights organizations now as hate groups. So just trying to understand the broader context of this work. On this agenda item, there was actually a question or public comment submitted by a resident. I did read Teresa's comment and question that was submitted. Obviously, in the climate we're in right now, anyone hears Homeland Security or Department of Homeland Security sets off alarm bells, right? And so in the comment, she was wondering, is any of this money for this grant connected to ICE? And how can we assure residents that these groups don't have hidden strings that will open us up to having to collaborate with ICE?
Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Hernandez, that's actually a really great question. So if I may, to give you a little bit of background context, the way the Arizona Department of Homeland Security grant program is structured, the state of Arizona is the recipient of the federal grant that comes directly from FEMA. The city of Phoenix has participation in the Urban Area Security Initiative grant. That's one of 3 grant programs. So the state has a suite of 3 different programs, the UASI, the State Homeland Security Grant Program, and then Operation Stone Garden, which only affects the southern border. It's not something that we deal with. So for the city of Phoenix, the grants that we apply for are typically under the UASI grant, but we also have the ability to apply for the State Homeland Security Grant, but that's typically focused on the central region. So the broader Phoenix UASI has a greater stake in applying for the UASI grant itself. So we do have the ability to apply for both. When a grant is actually submitted, it has to be based on individual specific projects that an agency has identified that they would like to work on. It has to meet the state and the federal descriptions as to what constitutes an acceptable project. If it's equipment, it has to be reviewed at the state and the federal level. If it's a program, it has to be reviewed at the state and federal level as well. So those programs are very specifically defined. So we do not have investigations that we would do outside of our normal jurisdiction. So if the City of Phoenix were to apply for a grant, it would have to be something that we typically do as part of our normal course of business. And to your point, those types of investigations are outside the scope of what the police department would do.
Okay, thank you so much, Assistant Chief. Great clarity. I want to make sure that the residents' questions and concerns are addressed the best that we can. I totally understand the importance of preparing for the big catastrophes. Obviously, I can't talk today, and understand why we should be planning for that and how we recover, how we care for people. It is important to acknowledge that we must be vigilant about how we are using these funds against our own communities, and we must assure that we are focusing on the hate groups here in Phoenix that are calling for violence and pushing white supremacy. Can we set up a time to meet with our team to review the department and the fire department's overall plan for responding to and recovering from acts of terrorism?
Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Hernandez, absolutely. It is a very broad program. We'd be more than happy to set up a time to kind of walk you through that and go over any of the questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. And I'm still going to claim that as a newest member, right? And there's just so much information to learn and to know. So I just really appreciate your willingness to always answer our questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Mayor?
Please.
Thank you. Again, just want to thank the chief for all the questions, walking me through myself and my office through that. Still have a lot of remaining concerns and need to understand more thoroughly about what the city is doing before I vote yes. Plus, I really want to understand how different groups are being researched as terrorist groups, and with that, I vote no.
O'Brien.
Yes?
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark. Waring. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-1.
Item 50 is the Martin L. Schultz Way ceremonial signage. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 50.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. The city has a variety of ways to honor people who have helped build our community, and one way we do so is to honor people with ceremonial street signs. These are the beautiful blue signs that you may see throughout our community. Today, we will be voting on a sign that would recognize Martin, or Marty Schultz, as many of us know him. It's very appropriate to have a street sign for him in the city of Phoenix. I got to serve with him as co-chairs of the Prop 104 campaign, which included funding for our city streets. I got to work with the vice mayor on this one. It is a sign in her district. It overlooks ASU signage where Mr. Schultz served as a trustee. It's also near the Bioscience Corps. He helped us with the bioscience plan through the Flynn Foundation. He worked with Arizona Public Service nearby, and he also helped bring forward Arizona Center, trying to bring much demanded retail to our downtown. Marty has been involved with so many groups, from helping the homeless to addressing autism to Valley leadership, and it's just exciting to be able to say thank you to him in this way. He's also very involved in the city of Phoenix, serving as chief of staff to 3 mayors of our city. So with that, I will turn to the vice mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, and I'm thankful to everyone who helped bring this item forward and help make this recognition possible. Today, we are saying thank you to Marty, honoring him, someone whose work has had a lasting and meaningful impact on our city. His contributions to our community, whether through his leadership, his service, or his commitment to simply improving the lives of others, have helped shape the fabric of our city in ways that continue to be felt today. As mentioned, this will be right in our bioscience core, an item that he took a lot of ownership for and pride in, and I am grateful to support his efforts in public service and continue to see those economic development continue to this day. It has helped to create pathways for others and strengthen the foundation of the community we serve. This ceremonial street designation ensures that his name and the values that he stands for will remain a visible and lasting part of Phoenix' story. It also will serve as a reminder to future generations of the importance of service, leadership, and giving back to your community. This recognition is a reflection of the deep respect and admiration our city has for his contribution. I'm proud to support this item and ensure that Martin Schultz's impact on Phoenix is honored, remembered, and celebrated. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank the mayor for bringing this matter to the attention of the council. I think something that she has made an effort to do, which is to honor people and their legacies while they are still with us, rather than waiting until they have passed, is such an incredibly smart thing to do. It's so important for us to let the folks know who have made a great impact in our city that they did so. I did not have the opportunity to work with Marty Schultz, but I did get to meet with him a couple of times. His knowledge of what has happened in this city is amazing, so much history, and I understand how important he and the impact to our city is to us. If you spent any time in the last 20 or 30 years attending a concert or convention downtown, working in the urban core, or riding light rail, you're experiencing the results of decisions that Martin Schultz helped move forward. At a time when downtown struggled to attract investment, he built partnerships that made projects like Arizona Center possible. And once that door opened, others followed. Mr. Schultz also understood the strength of a city is reflected in how we care for each other, and his work to help create the Human Services Campus brought dozens of providers together in one place, making it easier for people experiencing homelessness to access shelter, healthcare, and support. And through his work on transportation, higher education, and economic development, Mr. Schultz helped connect people to jobs, to school, and to opportunity. So this recognition is more than a name on a sign. We're acknowledging someone who helped turn big ideas into real systems that residents rely on every day, and that is a legacy worth honoring. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Waring?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. I've known Marty for almost 30 years, and he's been just a fantastic friend, been proud to know him. He was instrumental at the state legislature crafting energy policy and just generally being someone who tried to move our community forward. This is a fitting honor. I'm really glad that we're doing it, and he's just a tremendous person. If you didn't meet him, it's a shame because he really missed out. He was full of energy, full of life, always positive, and I'm glad that we're doing something to honor his legacy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stark?
Thank you, Mayor. I am very excited to support this. When you look up the definition of public service, you'll see Marty Schultz right by it. He really embodies that. He's a great guy and so deserving of this. He's done so many wonderful things for this city, and I'm proud to call him a friend. I've enjoyed him over the years, talking about infrastructure and all kinds of geeky things that I like to talk about. And so I think this is a wonderful, wonderful tribute to him.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor?
Thank you. I just have to say, I was able to watch Marty in action, and I was able to watch two men in action, which was my father and Marty, and many others building Phoenix, and in particular downtown. As his hands were part of Arizona Center, and I look back and I see today where it's at and the growth that has happened in a hotel. Arizona Center was just there at one point, centering the downtown, and then everything was built around it. His impact at APS, his influence at APS and in energy and in legislation, the fact that he was also part of many pieces of downtown, but in particular, he was also part of Phoenix Community Alliance and worked really closely there. And he he was definitely part of the Human Service Campus at the time when we were facing, we're still facing, but homelessness at that time, and he was truly instrumental in that piece. I want to say Marty really mentored many Phoenicians that are here today in government, but also in development and in private practice. He knew what it was to take somebody and not influence, but mentor, guide. And sometimes you didn't agree with him, and it was okay. And he would argue back with you, and you would be like, okay, here's my argument. But eventually it was a good dialogue and centered around getting to the right space. So thank you, Mayor, for wanting to honor him, and thank you, Hodge Washington, for making it happen in your district. Thank you.
Thank you. And Diane Barker is here to testify in support of this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for deciding that I should speak. I knew Marty, and he was seen here when he was not the assistant to several mayors. And the last time he had a big smile on his face because he was able to get reusable water out of Phoenix to be used out at the nuclear generating station. And we all know how powerful that is. And in the future, Mayor, we want it to do more renewables. But for the time being, can you imagine this summer when it gets hot and people can't get their energy in their AC, and what are we going to do? The guy with the coal force into renewables here in Phoenix. And thank you, Marty.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Wonderful. Congratulations to Mr. Schultz. And we'll be having an event soon to put up the signs in his honor. A huge thank you to Tony Matola from my team who's been coordinating this. And if you have questions, we may be able to help. Item 54 is next. It is the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Two-Step Construction Manager at Risk. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 54.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Diane, why don't you come back on?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And by the way, I'm in a very educated woman's district called Ana Hernandez. What a delight to speak with her. And on this is on safety. We're getting Keywood as a consultant, I guess, and also the engineer to go over on safety at 43rd and Camelback, and then down to 19th and Grand. Now, I spoke with Ed Zerker about the 35th and Avenue, that big project, $200 million, and that is on the same BSNF line. And I didn't see anybody from the city of Phoenix at that meeting that I came out of, hopped on a bus, got over the light rail in downtown, when we had people making dialogue that they couldn't get downtown out of Maryville, on any transit, so you had to build the light rail. Now, I'm giving these different facts. I'm just being neutral on this. It's $10 million. I'd like to have you ask Ed Zerker. Maybe in the future we can get the answer from McCune from the Streets Department. Are they looking at this line holistically? Phoenix, we called the whole valley Greater Phoenix for a long time. BSNF was 19th century railroad. This is what made this whole area prosper back in the day. Phoenix still has, and I just learned this, MoBest, it's the largest signaling station. You guys haven't been talking about what's happening with BSNF. huge project up at Surprise. It's been curtailed kind of over and very sleepy at the Board of Supervisors, but finally, these safety things along Grand Avenue are in Phoenix, and it all needs to be looked at holistically and with ADOT.
Thank you. Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next go to the planning and zoning portion of our agenda. We'll have one public hearing for 2 related items, but 2 votes. These are related to the southeast corner of 64th Street and Mayo Boulevard. They are in District 2. We will open the hearing. There is a representative for the applicant here to speak if necessary. Does anyone have questions? I'll close the public hearing on 72 and 73 and turn to Councilman Waring for a motion first on 72.
Motion to approve, Mayor, the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 73, Councilman Waring.
Motion to approve for the Planning Commission recommendation.
Second.
Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you, and thank you to Plaza, Councilman Waring, and all the folks who went into getting us to where we are today. A lot of community input and an important investment in a very dynamic area. We next go to item 74, which is a rezoning application near 11th Avenue and Michigan Avenue. We will have a public hearing. The applicant and the appellant will each have 10 minutes. Any number of people can speak during those 10 minutes, but if you speak, you will not have 2 minutes later, or one person can speak the entire time. The applicant can reserve up to 2 minutes to respond to issues raised, and we'll begin with the applicant.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For the record, Bill Allison with Morris Spa, 2121 East Highland, here on behalf of Arcadia Communities. I do have a presentation that I'll go through quickly. I should not be taking anywhere close to 10 minutes, I do not believe. We are here today to talk about the property that is highlighted on your screen with the yellow square. This is a property on the east side of 13th Avenue, just south of Union Hills. This aerial gives you some context, but we'll come a little bit closer to give you better context for the neighborhood around this property. As you can see, it's long been underutilized as the rest of the neighborhood has been developed, so we would call this an infill site. The zoning for the particular property we're talking about today is R18. You can see that the surrounding zoning is R18 to the south, with fairly standard single-family development on those lots. To the west, it's R16, again, fairly standard single family. And then the property which is closest to this on the north and the east is zoned R3, but developed with detached single family homes. So we're looking at a property that's kind of a thumb up into that R3. The proposal we have today is to rezone this site from R18 to R2. This is to allow the development of 19 detached single family homes on platted lots. The density here is at about 7.7 dwelling units per acre, which is lower than the R2 maximum. The project has been designed to meet all of the R2 standards. The development will include the construction of a sidewalk on the east side of 13th Avenue, where one does not exist today. There will be new landscaping along 13th Avenue and then within the community itself. And then per a requirement of the Street Transportation Department, there will be the completion, to the extent possible, of a partially complete cul-de-sac at the end of Michigan Avenue, which is at the southeast corner of the site, which is the lower right-hand corner of the image before you. This is the site plan superimposed on an aerial photograph, so you can see how this will fit within the neighborhood. We are looking at a project which is very complementary to the R3 to the north and to the east. Or very early on in the process, when we had a site plan pre-app meeting in December of 2024, Street Transportation flagged that the cul-de-sac, which is very incomplete at the end of Michigan Avenue, would need to be completed to the extent possible on this property, and that was a non-negotiable. At that point, we were looking at a U-shaped street that had 2 access points to 13th Avenue, and unfortunately, this design also required some variances because it did not meet standard. The project has evolved since that time. First, it was redesigned to accommodate the need to finish that Michigan Avenue cul-de-sac. The number of units was reduced from 23 to 19. The U-shaped street has been replaced with a development that has access to both 13th Avenue and Michigan Avenue. The City Council approved the middle housing text amendment late last year. After that occurred, staff called us and asked us if we would reevaluate our request and change from an R3 rezoning to an R2 rezoning, which we did. We were able to meet all of the R2 standards in doing that. We also, over the last several months, as this project has gone through the public hearing process, introduced several traffic calming measures within the community itself as traffic will approach Michigan Avenue to address concerns that we have heard from the neighbors who live on Michigan Avenue. This slide shows the site plan as it appeared before the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee and the Planning Commission, and how it has changed, what is now before you today. The change in the site plan is the addition of stamped pavement at the north and west sides of the entrance to the cul-de-sac. There is a stipulation in a staff memo provided to you to address that issue. Public outreach we've had on this project. We had a neighborhood meeting in early January. 4 people attended, 3 had questions about the project. We then started receiving some opposition correspondence from folks who live on Michigan Avenue. And we have had 3 virtual meetings with Kimberly Sisk, who is living on the south side of the cul-de-sac. One before the Village Planning Committee to understand better what the concerns were that the neighborhood had with the Michigan Avenue cul-de-sac and access to it. As a result of that discussion, we proposed 3 traffic mitigation measures at the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee. That committee, however, did not incorporate those measures into its recommendation of approval. We then had a second meeting with Ms. Sisk after the Planning Commission to discuss the 3 traffic mitigation measures that the Planning Commission did include in its recommendation of approval, and some additional ideas that she had asked us to evaluate. We then had a third meeting with Ms. Sisk last Friday to show the new site plan that's before you today, and also talk further about some developer contributions to landscape improvements for the 2 lots that have access in the existing neighborhood to the cul-de-sac. Just very quickly looking at traffic generation from this site, it's really relatively low. We're looking at 13 morning peak trips and 18 in the evening, with the other trips being distributed across the day. There are traffic mitigation measures that are designed into this development. First, the grade of these private streets that are within the new development is higher than the grade of the public road network. What that means is that as you leave the neighborhood to enter the cul-de-sac, it's much like leaving a commercial property onto the public streets where there's a slope down, and that necessarily calms traffic. That's just built into the project. Then the Planning Commission did adopt or recommends adoption of 3 traffic mitigation measures within the new development. First, that the developer will put stop signs at the entrances from the new neighborhood onto that cul-de-sac to stop people before they drive into the cul-de-sac. Second, there will be speed humps that will be installed also north and west of the entrance to the cul-de-sac to get people to slow down before they stop at the stop sign. Third, the developer will install a private access do not enter sign facing the Michigan Avenue cul-de-sac to discourage people from using Michigan Avenue to cut through from 11th to 13th Avenues. That's been a concern we have heard from the neighbors. And then finally, there is the new stipulations before you today regarding the stamped pavement north and west of the cul-de-sac. This is the cul-de-sac design that Street Transportation has approved. This is completing as much of the cul-de-sac as is possible on this property. This cul-de-sac improvement will happen regardless of what the development is on this site, whether it's using the zoning that's in place today or it's a proposed project going forward. Regardless, this cul-de-sac needs to be improved to improve safety for the folks who actually live on it so that emergency vehicles have a better chance to get there and turn around. In summary, we're looking at a redevelopment of an infill site. We're looking at 19 homes on detached lots. We are completing a cul-de-sac that is a requirement from the Street Transportation Department. This is going to be new market rate housing that produces a low amount of traffic. We have built several traffic mitigation measures into the development itself. And finally, we are here, and we're pleased to say we're here with recommendations of approval from the Planning Commission with a 7-0 vote, the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee with a 7-3 vote, and from staff. And my client is in complete agreement with the recommendation from the Planning Commission with the additional step that is before you today. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We will now hear from Kimberly Sisk.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Kimberly Sisk. I have lived on 1117 West Michigan Avenue for 11 years. There are 5 homes in that cul-de-sac. This is not in opposition to the development. This is about whether the city is about to approve a site plan design that materially impacts property rights without analysis, without mitigation, and without consequence. I'd like to mention that the site plans that were shown just now, it's kind of flawed in the way it did not have any houses on Michigan Avenue. If you had looked at any of the letters that I had sent, you would see how close those houses are to the bulb of that cul-de-sac that they're creating. Looking at it without the houses on there, you can easily say it doesn't look like it's going to impact anything. I've submitted multiple letters into the record demonstrating the traffic impact study is flawed and that critical information is missing. Thus, the rezoning application is not ripe for approval today. The proposal is fundamentally one-sided. The city benefits, the developer benefits, and the 5 homeowners on Michigan Avenue bear the entire burden of all the losses associated with this development going forward. There's no balance, there's no offset, and the proposed mitigation, landscaping, stamp payment, signage, it's all cosmetic. None of it that we requested. I mean, as far as it's not a benefit to us. The proposal before you does not address safety, access, property rights, property value, and constitutional rights. This proposal eliminates a 5-home cul-de-sac that has existed for 19 years. This is not minor. This is a fundamental change in how this terminal road operates today. This is not about traffic volume. This is about how access functions. Today, the cul-de-sac provides minimal traffic, minimal conflict points, predictable ingress, egress, and a safe residential environment, and a recognized premium of value. This proposal removes every single one of those protections. Our cluster mailbox is located on 11th Avenue. It's not even on the cul-de-sac in Michigan Avenue. We requested the post office to move it to our cul-de-sac. They refused. They said there was insufficient space on our cul-de-sac for their mail carrier to safely operate. That matters. The federal U.S. Post Office determined the cul-de-sac cannot safely accommodate even a limited service access vehicle, but yet this development, this proposal is introducing substantially more traffic into the same space, and this should raise serious concerns, serious safety concerns. At the last meeting, it was suggested that the residents would simply follow traffic laws when you're backing out of my driveway and into an active traffic pattern that does not exist today and has not existed the 11 years I've lived there. That is not a solution, that is a deflection. This is a design problem, not a behavior problem. The proposal forces residents to reverse into active traffic, a condition that does not exist today. And it has not existed in the 11 years that I've been there, nor in the 19 years the cul-de-sac has existed. This has not been analyzed. There's nothing in the record that analyzes the safety hazards to the residents on Michigan Avenue. Traffic laws do not eliminate conflict points. Design does. Expecting residents to rely on perfect driver compliance for their safety is at best an unrealistic and naive assumption, and at the worst, a foreseeable and a preventable safety hazard. The city's own street planning and design guidelines do not allow for guesswork when it comes to public safety. Section 9.3 requires a traffic impact study to analyze actual operating conditions, including access points, how vehicles interact at those locations. Section 6.7 require evaluation of driveway placement, alignment, conflict points. Section 2.6 mandates that intersection design account for sight distance, safe vehicle movements. These are not discretionary standards. These are baseline safety requirements, and none of these have been done. The traffic impact study before you does not contain one single sentence regarding any of those concerns. They are obvious foreseeable hazards. This is textbook driveway conflict condition. It's not been analyzed, it's not been modeled, it was not mitigated. The city's own guidelines emphasize protecting the public and preventing unsafe design outcomes. Approving a design where known conflict points are not evaluated exposes this city to exactly the type of preventable incidents that these standards are intended to avoid. This is not a disagreement over the planning preference. This is a failure to apply the city's own adopted safety standards. When a required safety condition is ignored, the conclusion is not just incomplete, it is invalid. And that failure should have consequences. This is also a property rights issue. Under Article 2, Section 17 of the Arizona Constitution, property owners have a protected right to safe and reasonable access. Arizona courts are clear that when a government action materially interferes with those protected rights, mitigation is required. This proposal converts a 19-year-old terminating cul-de-sac into a through traffic access point, introducing continuous traffic directly in front of our connected driveways. That is substantial, and there is no analyst on the record addressing that impact. None. These homes were purchased as cul-de-sac properties, a defining character that carries a recognized premium. If you remove the cul-de-sac, that's going to result in a measurable loss, and is estimated between 3 to 10% of each home's value, just by removing it. That cul-de-sac is the reason I purchased the home. It's the reason my 4 neighbors purchased their homes. This impact has also not been analyzed. Additionally, I believe that the roadway is held as a right-of-way easement, not a fee simple ownership by the city, based on the recorded plats, deeds, and title reports for our homes on Michigan Avenue. That's not been discussed, not been analyzed. This rezoning application is effectively requiring 5 homeowners to absorb all the loss of benefits, substantial impairment to access, loss of property rights, diminished home values, with no corresponding mitigation. We receive 0 benefits. The benefits go to the developer, and the benefits go to the city. The burdens and losses fall entirely on the 5 homeowners on Michigan Avenue. This is exactly what the law prohibits. If council is considering approval today, there's 3 threshold questions that should be answered before you give a yes vote. The first one is, does the record reflect concrete, measurable, proportional benefits being provided to the homeowners on Michigan Avenue that offset the burdens and losses that they are going to be imposed, the loss to their property rights, their value to their home, just everything. Number 2, is the record before you complete? Does it have all the site-specific analysis that's required to make a sound, informed decision? Has all the safety concerns thoroughly been analyzed? Have the diminished values been analyzed? Property rights been analyzed? Proportionality been analyzed? Is there legally sufficient mitigation spelled out? Number 3, if those items are not in the record today, does the record as it stands today contain legally sufficient evidence to support approving this rezoning? If the answer to all those questions is a no, approval is not legally supportable. And based on the record as it stands today, all three of those questions cannot be answered in the affirmative. Cosmetic measures such as stamped pavement and signage, minimal landscaping are legally insufficient and do not offset the loss of safety, right of access, diminished values, property rights, and residential character. If you approve this, you're not approving development. You are approving a design with actual knowledge of those deficiencies, and that matters. This is no longer a planning decision. It becomes a legal decision with legal consequences. Inverse condemnation, unlawful extraction, substantial impairment of access, interference with property rights, liability for preventable hazardous site plan design. Not hypothetical, not speculative. This is exactly how these cases arise. If you're not prepared to deny it, then you should also not approve it. You should continue it until the missing analyst is involved. May I have just like 30 seconds?
If you just could finish your sentence, but we do have Cheyenne and Adrian, so we'll hear from them when you finish your sentence.
The evidence on the record today does not support approval, but the risk clearly supports a denial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also in opposition, we have Cheyenne and then Adrian.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Me and my fellow residents, including Adrian on Rosemary Lane, are very opposed to this development as it is currently designed. It has already resulted in the removal of significant trees that allowed us to view wildlife on many occasions and was a portion of why we bought the house to begin with. Now it will result in the building of all two-story homes to block our mountain views, our sunlight, and rob us of any privacy in our own backyards, which are all reasons why we bought the homes where we did as opposed to other nearby homes. We would be far less opposed to this development if either the homes were not two-story or if there was any kind of spacing between our homes and the new homes. If I'm understanding the plans right, and this will be like the development that I believe the same developer did on Union Hills and 11th, these homes will only be offset about 20 feet from the wall. They'll basically be on top of us. However, a distinct difference in that development was that there was a landscaped area put between the existing homes' backyards and the new homes, but we are not being given that same consideration. This would be a much better situation for all of us living on Rosemary, a landscaped area or even a street adjacent to our walls instead of these two-story homes. These two-story homes would be reducing our property values, destroying our views, and robbing us of privacy, and we are opposed to it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Adrian.
So this proposal raises serious and unacceptable concerns for the residents on Rosemary Lane, who will be directly affected. The plan to construct two-story homes immediately behind existing single-story homes like ours will drastically reduce our privacy, creating direct sight lines into our backyards and living spaces. While there are taller homes elsewhere in the community, none are positioned directly behind us. This proposal is fundamental, different. It introduces elevated structures right next to our properties, resulting in a clear and unavoidable intrusion into our daily lives. This is not a minor adjustment. It is a permanent and significant change to how we live and use our homes. Our backyards will no longer feel private, secure, or comfortable. Additionally, these new homes will block our mountain views, which were a major factor in our decisions to live here. We paid premium for those mountain views, and they are, which were a major factor in decisions to where we live. We paid premium for those mountain views, and they are a defining feature to our property. Losing them is not a small inconvenience. It represents a substantial loss to both our quality of life and the value of our homes. There has been no meaningful site-specific analysis provided to address these impacts, nor a clear enforceable measure to mitigate the harm to existing homeowners. Simply meeting minimum zoning requirement is not sufficient when the real world consequences are this severe. We strongly oppose the proposal in, sorry, its current form and urge that it be reconsidered and significantly redesigned to protect the privacy views and overall quality of the life of current residents. Thank you.
Thank you. To our team, did we get all of our speakers? We did. All right. We're good? Okay. I'll close the hearing and I'll turn to Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick questions of staff. If they were to develop with the R18, potentially we would still require the cul-de-sac, correct? Because cul-de-sac generally is built so our emergency vehicles, like fire trucks, can turn around.
Yes, Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, members of the council, you are correct. Regardless of the reason, the cul-de-sac would have to be completed with the redevelopment of the site.
So without this rezoning and they were to develop it under an R18, we would probably require that cul-de-sac because we have to get our fire trucks in and out if there is a 911 call. So I think regardless of their argument, that could happen today under the R18. Also, under the R18, they could also build 2 stories, correct?
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, members of the council, you are correct.
So what they're trying to do is build a product that is, although maybe not affordable, it's close to affordable because they're going to do a rent to own that then helps a person build equity and they can actually see true ownership in the future. And I think that's important. And I think that they are trying to provide some type of middle housing product here. And we need that in our city. Right or wrong, we still need housing in our city. And so I support this request. And I'm happy to make a motion, but if there's any other comments, I can hold off.
Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you. Just have a question or maybe a couple questions for staff. Michigan Avenue, is that a privately owned street or is it a public right-of-way?
Mayor, Councilwoman Hernandez, members of the council, it is a local street, so it is a public street.
Okay. Okay. I was just wanting to get that clarity because I'm not really following the property rights argument that we heard by some of the residents opposed. If that street is publicly owned, then it's publicly owned. So I don't see if the development is across or at the end of the cul-de-sac. From looking at the drawings, I don't see the impact into the properties along Michigan Avenue. So thank you for clarifying that. Also, prior to joining the council, I have 15 years of experience in residential mortgage, reading appraisals, right, like closing loans, doing all the things. I don't recall mountain views being used in the valuations of properties. I don't think there's a line listed for that on any appraisal. So I'm a little concerned that that is an argument we're hearing on this rezone application. Okay, thank you. That was my question and comments. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one question regarding some of the applicant or the residents' concerns about reversing into oncoming traffic and some of those concerns. Is there anyone that can address from your perspective? Thank you.
Certainly, Mayor, Vice Mayor Hodge-Washington, members of the council. With it being a local street, it is expected, as many of our residential subdivisions are all on local streets, that we back out into, because those are low volume streets as well.
So it isn't, thank you for joining us. So it would not be an inconsistent expectation in this development?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Hodge-Washington, members of the council, that is correct.
Thank you. And then my other question was one that Councilwoman Hernandez started to ask, and it was whether or not the potential impact to proposed property value, whether or not that is a consideration that is undertaken in the rezoning, considering the rezoning application.
Vice Mayor Hodge Washington, I apologize. Could you repeat your question?
Thank you. I'll do better. So yes, I can repeat the question. One of the concerns that was raised was an impact. One of the impact that they alleged was about 3 to 10% diminution of value to their property. My question is whether or not the proposed impact to property values of adjacent property owners is a factor that is considered in a rezoning application.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Hodge Washington, members of the council, I believe that the residents are referring to Prop 207 or ARS. I apologize. I wrote it down.
Prop
12-1134 about diminution of value, and that does not apply to adjacent property owners.
That was my understanding as well, so thank you for the clarification on that. And then I don't know if there's any clarity that can be given regarding the cluster mailbox and the concerns about the Postal Service saying that it would not fit a vehicle. I presume that is because the cul-de-sac is not completed, so it makes it difficult for any vehicle, especially a mail vehicle, to turn in that area. Actually, you don't have to answer that one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And anyone additional wishing to speak? All right. So you have a motion?
Yes, I do. So I make a motion to approve per the memo from the Planning and Development Director dated April 6, 2026, and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
Roll call.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you, everyone, for participating in this process and giving us your time. We next turn to the final portion of the agenda, and I'll ask our city attorney to introduce that.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may speak to the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern. However, the matters addressed must be within the jurisdiction of the Phoenix City Council and on which the council has the authority to act. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law allows the City Council to listen to comments but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the issues presented. However, council members may respond to criticism. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with Diane Barker, followed by Bonnie Nichols.
Thanks again, Mayor and Council. You didn't say come on down, the price is right, but I won't take your time pretty much. You'd misspelled my name. Put an extra N in there, okay? My dad was an Air Force colonel, so he had to make sure all the kids had all the letters above the line, okay? But I just wanted to say, hey, we had a great, Phoenix Final Four. And what's important is actually our neighbor over in UCLA, they're the champions now. I would like to see Mercury up there, but, we keep supporting them and they've done a good job, and I thought that also I attended the Kevin Robinson's safety meeting, and I did notice some more police officers around the convention center for this event. It seemed to run smoothly, and we didn't have like the Monarch or any of those kind of events that we're getting rid of the violence downtown, thank God. And so I just want to say keep on going. And I would like to have you look into those polluting pop and bang cars that are running 24/7 downtown. It's aggressive driving and people think it's real cool. It's not. And it doesn't do anything to help bring people live downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie is next, followed by Noah James.
I'm going to start by saying I don't want SOS shut down the safe outdoor space that you guys run. But however, I called the health department over a month ago. I've been to SOS twice in the last year and a half. The first time I went there, I had somebody bullying me, and they were selling drugs out of the tent. They not once ever flipped the tent. Trevor was well aware of everything going on. I had to get an order of harassment against said person. Not even 2 days after I did that, oh wait, they exited me first for non-compliance because I was pointing out everything that was wrong. I've been a caregiver for over 24 years with physically and mentally disabled persons, so I'm well aware of people's behaviors and everything. Oh my God. But anyways, the bottom line is that the first time I was there, I got exited because I was pointing out things that they weren't doing. Like, oh, the cameras only work when they want them to work. But yet somebody can go into somebody else's tent and steal it. But yet if they want to decide to dictate who does what, all of a sudden the camera works. I was there when 2 people that were in wheelchairs got attacked by a gentleman, and he got to stay there over the weekend because there was no supervisor. I don't know about anybody else, but I know how to pick up a phone and call and say, hey, you know, this isn't, if it had been me, they would have exited me right out immediately. On top of that, like I said, 2 days after I got the order of harassment, that same person attacked another resident, and they sent her and the resident that she attacked off campus. Moved them, gave the gal that started the fight, that was when I served the order of harassment against, gave her right over to Cass. The other one had to walk over, and that person should have never been exited because guess what? She had a heart attack, and she wasn't the one that started the fight. That's the first time I was there. I left, I went to Michigan to help take care of a family member. I came back because I've lived in Arizona for over 50 years. It's my home. I've come back. I came back to, I walk over to Cass. You got people doing all kinds of drugs and stuff right there on the campus, plain as day. And that's not the Cass that I knew. I went to Cass way back in 2012, and it was not like that. I know the city of Phoenix got sued, and you know what? It's starting to look like the zone again, just so you all are aware. This time, I've gone back to SOS. I did graduate culinary school. I appreciate that. But however, they've got staff there and security that they don't have the mentality to be there, and they shouldn't be there. When people start talking and saying, you people, you know what? I'm not you people. I'm an individual. It's bad enough we're homeless, but you don't have to put us on blast either. I literally, the other day, I was sitting out waiting for somebody to come out. And I had a gal ask me, and I don't know where she was from or whatever. She asked me, you know, are you hungry? I'm like, no, I'm good. And I was dressed as nice as I am right now. I was literally sitting out just across from SOS.
Thank you so much for this important testimony and bringing those items to our attention. We'll go next to Noah.
Aloha, Mayor, and to the rest of the City Council. I'm gonna talk about the ICE problem here. And I'm going to talk about it because actually I'm support for it as a Democrat. I'm a strong Democrat. And we know that President Barack Obama, the first Black president, yes, and President Joe Biden, yes, they supported ICE too. But they knew what to do with ICE. We know that Republicans don't know what to do with ICE. As you can see that with Donald Trump and you know, President W. Bush too. They're the two presidents that the Republican Party, I could never be a part of the Republican Party. This is a disaster. This party is a disaster. Also, when I'm in like the stores and, you know, it's kind of weird that somebody comes up to me when I have my shirt off in the store and they tell me to put my shirt back on. It feels very pedophile-ish, it's just very weird and just disturbing. Also, I know that people complain about the homeless people out here in the parks. And, you know, that's just really, it just feels uncomfortable. Being somebody that has been homeless and, you know, it's hot here. I understand why they want to be at the park. I understand they want something cool to stay at. I have no problem with homeless people. And I don't have a problem with homeless people having, you know, their shirts off, or I don't know what's going on with them. Everybody has something going on with them. Also, I don't really see a lot of women police officers around here. I see more old white men hanging around here. I don't want to see that in Phoenix. I'd rather see women police officers. Also, I know it might not happen, but we do need another city manager. A woman, please. Maybe a black woman, Asian, I don't know, but we need a woman to take in charge, and we need a mind of a woman. So thank you so much. Mahalo.
Thank you. I believe that is our final speaker. We are adjourned.
And drawing a theater. And so they hired him, and building it starting in about 1964. And the building itself, when it was finished, 16,000 square feet, 17,000 square foot theater, had a big arc, curved entryway, a